Brady Bunch time here.
I feel like I should.
We've got C.H. Admirand, Fil Reid, Sara Adrien, Deb Marlowe, and Delphine Roy. Ladies, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you for having us.
Always a pleasure.
Always.
Love Full House weeks because I get to just sit and watch everybody else talk. It's fantastic. So we're going to go in order of release since we have so many releases this week, and we're going to start with Delphine's book, which is Passion at the Palais Royal.
Yes.
Book 3 in Blue, Blanc, and Rogue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic title for a series. So.
Yes, I loved it so much. I was so happy when I found it. So yeah, it's book 3 in the series. So now the trilogy is complete. And it's going to follow Nicholas, who is a character, if you read the first 2 books, he appears in book 1 and 2. And so now it's his story, so we get to follow him. And so he's a savate trainer, which is a form of boxing, and he wants to, set up a gymnasium and stuff. But there's some underworld shenanigans going on, and he meets Violette de la Roque, who was coerced into becoming a thief, a pickpocket, to pay off her brother's gambling debts. And so her family is ruined. They all died during the revolution. And so she basically just has to survive. And of course, they're going to meet. And this is more of a forbidden love trope because she works for his enemy. And so she's going to ask him for boxing lessons to defend herself in a very dangerous situation. And so, of course, that's going to get them closer together.
Oh, there's lots to like.
Yeah.
Take care of herself and for proximity. There's all kinds of good stuff.
Yes, and I really liked setting this. The whole trilogy is post-revolutionary France, and you can feel like people just trying to survive and thrive in this new society with new opportunities, but also dangerous situations and families that were completely torn apart. So that was really interesting to write.
Yeah, and that's a time period we don't often read about that specifically. So it's nice to be able to fall into that world too.
Yeah, definitely, totally. I was really happy to set it in France, of course.
And this is the last book in the trilogy?
Yeah, it is the last book in the trilogy, but if you read the book, there's sort of a beta couple, the side characters who are obviously, into each other. And so I'm going to write a novella about them that's going to be released in an anthology with Dragonblade very soon.
Oh, fun!
Yes,
I think that's one of the best parts about the anthologies is that you get to get snippets of characters and story series that you've seen before. So
yeah, I love doing that so much. I get so inspired by side characters all the time.
Take over. Yeah, awesome. Well, that one is out now. It was the first book that released this week, so you can grab it if you haven't already grabbed it. There's no waiting.
Yeah,
awesome. And the next book that came out this week is Deb's book, and it's Carnage. I keep reminding myself of Carnage. I want to say Carriage, and Carriage of the Cursed Crown doesn't make any sense at all. It's Carnage from the Cursed Crown. It's book 5 of the Kieran Levitt mystery. All right.
Yes, it is. Today's the release day. It's my book birthday. Yay!
Yay!
Yeah, Carnage from the Cursed Crown, and it does come with carnage. It's the 5th book in this series. I'm having a blast with these guys. It's a mystery series with a slow burn romance. So I'm getting to follow the romance of the same couple. And it's really just been so fabulous because I'm really diving deep into their characters and getting to peel back the layers very slowly, and just really, I'm having a blast with it. And they get into some wild and crazy adventures, which I love, and I get to explore so much history. And this book, actually, I'm leaving for the first time. I'm leaving Victorian London, and they are in Victorian Edinburgh, and in the Scottish countryside. So I'm just, oh my gosh, I had so much fun exploring all that stuff. New recipes. I have a new recipe for my Deb Marlowe's Historical Kitchen series.
Oh, fun!
So a recipe I had never heard of before I just started doing some research in Edinburgh. So
what is it? Can you tell us?
It's called they're called parleys, or also parliament cakes, which were they're like little thin shortbreads flavored with black treacle and ginger, and they were a favorite amongst the gentlemen of the Scottish Parliament before it was dissolved, when the United Kingdom was created. But they would go to a special little tavern run by Mrs. Flockhart, and she would serve them parleys and whiskey.
Oh, I would like that,
Really
please.
So yes, I made a couple versions of them and put up a new video on my historical kitchen part of my website. So if you're interested, you can go watch my completely amateur videos.
What's your website address, Deb?
I'm sorry.
What's your website address?
Oh, it's www.debmarlowe.com.
Cool,
So,
cool. Right,
yeah.
huge fan of shortbread and a huge fan of ginger cookies. And
Yeah.
Yeah,
huge fan of
and I had
whiskey.
never tried black treacle before, so that was a fun adventure. So
Is black treacle similar to molasses, to backstrap molasses?
I think it is. It's similar. It's very thick and not very sweet, not like golden syrup or anything like that. So it's a different flavor. I really liked it. So
Oh, cool.
yeah.
The only thing
And
I know-
these characters, I'm just falling more in love with them with every book. So, and I'm happy to say there will be more books. So
I know we're very excited about that. We were talking about that on this Monday or last Monday. I don't remember, but Natalie was tickled to pieces. She's like, this can't be the end. I'm not ready for this to be the end yet.
I wasn't ready either.
Well, and there's something really lovely about like that kind of long, slow burn where you really get a chance to spend time with the characters together.
Yeah.
I've
I've had so much fun with them. I've really enjoyed them. So, and I hope the readers are enjoying them as much as I am. So
Awesome. We'll look forward to this book and also to the books that come after this one. So
thank you.
more mysteries to come. So the next book that came out this week is Sarah's book, and it's a brand new book in a brand new series, and it's A Sight to Behold, and it's the first book in the Miracles of Harley Street series. Can you tell us about the book and also about the series, because the series is set up is so cool for this one?
I'm so happy to talk about it. So it's Nick and Pippa's story, and you have to imagine the whole series, Miracles on Harley Street, is like Bridgerton and Grey's Anatomy, and a little bit of Friends.
Nice.
So there are two buildings in my imaginary Harley Street, but they both exist on the real Harley Street, and I've been there. And in one of the buildings, all of my Lion's Den Doctor's books are happening, and in the other building, this series is, not all the stories happen there, but they all come and go from this building. And that's 87 Harley Street, which is real, but there's now a cardiologist or something. It has nothing to do with the current people there. And there is an oculist, which is basically like an eye surgeon / eye doctor all in one at the time. And the next book will be about the apothecary who's there because he has to supply all the good concoctions. I'll tell you more about those because that's fun. And then the third one has a very, very, very sexy Italian orthopedist.
Oh my.
So, every time my shoulder gets tired. Yeah. But I'm writing his story right now. I'm really deep in his story. Then next, the oculist has a little sister who's not so little anymore, and she's a nurse. So she will get the fourth book, and then the fifth book will be a dentist who has lost his love and will want to get it back.
No.
So I'm so excited about the story. Nick is the oculist. He is the best one in England, but he doesn't know it. He's way too modest, way too hot, like this blonde, tall guy. So he's trained in Vienna now this is real, I thought this was so interesting, under the doctor who made cataract surgeries possible because
Oh my goodness.
this is all research from the series.
Cool.
So he, those triangular blades, those scalpels that these days you can buy really cheap and throw away.
Mhm.
So there was this real eye doctor in Vienna, and I'm pretending that Nick was in his auditorium of 300 students and learned his craft. And anesthesia wasn't a thing, so you really had to calm the patient to stay still. And Nick is a master of his craft, which makes him a little eccentric. And he has this very, very important patient, an Earl, who plays a big role throughout the series. And if the surgery on this Earl will go well, all the doctors in this practice can establish their livelihoods, and they've been working for this for so long. It's like Friends, when they're all sitting together and trying to make it in life, and so it's like that. And so I won't tell you the surgery and all of these things are going to happen in the story, but before that surgery, Nick is nervous and he goes to the corner bakery, which comes out often in my stories, and he meets Pippa, who has this whirlwind personality, and they smash into a wedding cake together, and you can kind of see where that's going then. And she's extremely clumsy. She much rather would like to talk to the plants in her orangery. And they both have pets that play a role as well. There is a cute little dog and a bunny, and the entire a bunny.
Oh yay!
Yeah. There are lots of jokes with this bunny in the book, so I'm hoping that people who are reading the story will really enjoy the little funny aspects. So the theme is the same and also not. The theme is, again, perfection and healing, because perfection doesn't really exist in life, but I think there's nothing more perfect than the capability to heal, whether you're the healer or whether the person healing. And then there's a lot of the themes of gentry versus nobility. And, Nick is earning his place in society, but he can't possibly earn his place in society. So there's a lot of this. It's a very sweeping romance. It's a long book, as they all will be in the series. And they're some of my really close friends that I feel like I'm releasing into the world.
Oh, I love that. I love the way you talked about that. That seems like so much fun. I have not quite gotten over the fact that the Earl is going to have to lay really still while he operates on his eye.
Yeah.
It's fine. Nick is going to make it fun. Okay. It's not a problem. No issue.
Because it feels fraught with peril, but that's just from the outside. So.
Yeah.
Well, there is the added complication of a quack across the street.
Oh.
Quackery and just really quackery and, wise were really a big deal back then, because the medical profession wasn't as regulated as it is now. So the quack across the street, who is being supported by Pippa's father financially, wants to ruin the practice. And of course, there could be nothing worse than for Nick to be after, or even worse, compromise the daughter of the man who's already supporting their worst enemy. So, so smashed wedding cake turns out to be the least of his problems.
Well, we're gonna have to read it to find out what happens, but it sounds
lot.
lovely. And I love that you talked about that theme of perfectionism and healing before, and I think that's such a lovely idea that that's something that we all experience in some form, whether it's physical healing or emotional healing. So
Right.
awesome.
Everybody deserves love.
Yep, everybody deserves love. Awesome. Well, the next book that comes out this week is Phil's book, and it's The Cornish Bride, and it's book 2 in the Cornish Ladies series. And the first book we time traveled, but we're not doing that anymore. Is that right?
Yeah, no more time travel.
Back there, we're staying back there. That's where we're going to be.
But the heroine from book 1, who did the time traveling, is in book 2.
Oh, fun.
And the central character in book 2 is the sister of the hero from book 1, because she was my absolute favourite character to write in book 1, and I had to give her her own story, because she's very naive and very chatty and very girlish, and she's quite young for her age. So she's coming out in London, she's having her debut in London, but she has to go with her mother because the heroine from book 1 is pregnant. So she's very close to having the baby, so they stay behind in Wiltshire, although a lot of it's set in Cornwall. It does start in Wiltshire. So, and also her brother has to stay there as well. So it's just her and her mother in London. Possibly her mother isn't keeping as much of an eye on her as she should be, because she falls for the charms, the very dubious charms of a rake who is a fortune hunter. Thinks she's in love with him, and deal of trouble for her and for everybody in the story, because back at home in Wiltshire, her brother's, he was also in book, I was also in book one. Her brother's estate manager is very much the same age as her brother. He's youngish, and he's been in love with her all his life. And he's on the side watching her, and he's so upset that she's going to London. He thinks he might not see. Well, he kind of hopes he might not see her again, that she'll get married and not come home, so he won't have to look at her because he's in love with her. But of course, then there's a problem, because heroine from book one, time traveling young lady, has the baby, and she's very ill after having the baby, because it was a very risky time to give birth. A lot of women died either when they were giving birth because they couldn't, well, the medical side, same as with the eye operations and things, they didn't have very much they could do to if the problem with birth. So a lot of people did die. And then some of them died afterwards as well from childbed fever. Anyway, so she's ill straight after she gives birth. And they all have to go back to Wiltshire. And he does get to see her again, but she is followed very swiftly by the rake. So I can't give away too much, but there's all sorts of things that happen. They do end up back in Cornwall. There's a very exciting shipwreck in the middle of the night. There's some things I can't mention because I don't really want to give away the story. But there's quite a lot of adventure and danger that goes on in this story. Well, there was in the book one. He has a friend in this book. Well, she was in book one as well. Her name's Caroline, and Caroline is going to be the heroine of book three, which is inheritance. So it follows through. And in fact, this young lady, her name's Isella Carlyon, and her brother is a viscount. So she's the Honourable Isella Carlyon. She is in all four books, but not everyone is in all four books. Mm-hmm. So, because the last one is called The Cornish Widow. She was a happy ever after, obviously.
I love it when they all link together, and I love it when we get to see like them in more than one book and get to see like now we know there's a baby for the couple in book one. You know, like I love it when we get to follow their lives along afterwards.
Yeah, she doesn't die, so I can say that she's not going to die.
I was kind of hoping that was the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't even die like that. Not in a romance story, I don't think.
Mm-mm.
Not unless Nicholas Sparks, and then it's not a romance.
It's not a romance.
My daughter finally read my other books, which are Arthurian, and she said, the baby doesn't die, does it? No, don't worry, no babies die. She's feeling very good.
I mean, it's joking, but I do think that that's part of the promise that we make to readers, like as romance authors, that like we'll if you give us your hearts, we'll take you on this ride, but we're going to deliver you safely at the end. You know, you can let yourself feel all the feelings because we're not going to drop a log truck on you or lose you.
Unless you're the villain and you're really creepy and you've done some really horrible things, we might hurt you, but we might not maim you. Well,
yes, but if you've done it right, then they're really happy that happened.
This is true.
It's always good when a villain gets his comeuppance.
Yeah, because it's nice when the world works the way it's supposed to work, and this is the one place where we can control that.
There's always the safety net. Yeah.
Oh, hold on a second, Delphine. I turned you down because you had background noise. Go ahead.
No, I just said there's always the safety net when you read romance, and that's what makes it great. You know, knowing that the safety net is there always.
Yeah.
It's kind of a fantasy of the past, isn't it? Because it's not how the past really was, but it's how we quite like it to have been.
Yeah, and I think you can sink in a little bit deeper when you don't have to guard yourself against bad things happening. You know, like you can just let go and follow where the author wants to take you, because you know that eventually you're going to end up someplace satisfying at the end.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Well, the last book that we had come out this week is CH's book, and it is Liberating the Lady of Lochmo. And this is book one of the Ladies of the Keep. And this is a re-release, is that right?
Yes. It's
Which you wrote how many years ago?
Yeah, and I wrote, I did the math. 25 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. It was the second book I wrote. There's kind of a story there, so I was going to kind of tell you about that instead of the book. I'll give you kind of a couple of highlights. I never changed the theme of it. It's a marriage arranged for freedom, Lady Gillian's, and a dowry not of gold but honor. It's Garrick of Merewoods. This happens 5 or 6 years after the Norman conquest, so it's while they still had the Saxon uprisings, and they both lose so much at the Battle of Hastings, aside from family members. But so they're trying to rebuild their lives, and stuff is happening because if you read one of my books, it's not ever going to just be about the two characters. There's stuff going on. There's mayhem. There's people don't trust other people. There's betrayal. There's characters that are nefarious and trying to do things. So it's action adventure, but romance. So there's a lot of that going on, and it's a medieval. So a couple of the fight scenes and battle scenes are a little grim, but it's a medieval, so it makes sense. But anyway, when I was writing it the first time, I was writing through the grief. I just lost my dad to Alzheimer's in '99. He was only 66. So it was
Oh,
like,
man.
for me, I needed to finish this book. And I was a member of RWA for a long time and NJRW, and they had the book in a week. And I was like, I'm going to do this. So, but this happened to be the week that I was going to write it, and I still did it anyway. And it worked out really well, but I think maybe I put more into it when I'm grieving, because that's what I've been doing for the last couple of years again. And I don't know, it's like a pattern in my life. I have to stop that pattern. But when Dragonblade agreed to reissue it, I have new content that I put back in, and then there were love scenes that I had taken out at someone's advice when I got the rights back 10 years ago. And the book wasn't the same. You know, you have to have, you trust this person that you love with your heart, your soul, your body. It's everything. So it just didn't make sense to me without it. But so that was another part that I put back in. So it makes sense to me now. But there's 3 huge reasons why I really love this book. And maybe it doesn't make sense to anybody else. But the first was about my dad and being able to write it through my grief and hoping that he could kind of be like, oh, so that's what happens next? Call, what else is going on? And then the first publisher that contracted for the book sent me my edits, and I started to read it. I'm like, I didn't write that. I didn't write that. There's the character's name. Okay, that's good. And it said here, okay, that's good. So by the time I got finished reading the first 3 chapters, I'm like, this is not my book. So I got in touch with them, and they said, oh, we rewrote it because we really want to go in this direction with the book. And I was like, no,
Oy.
thanks anyway. So that was the end of that. That did not end well. And eventually, 2007 is when the first time that it was actually published. But before that, have you ever been to RWA and had a group editor meeting where there's more than one person there and you're all pitching at the same, well, not at the same time,
Oh, no.
5 minutes. I was so
Group
excited.
pitch.
Yes. And it was with an editor that I had submitted the book to. And I was like, yes, this is going to be the best meeting ever. We're sitting there, we go around the table. She gets to me and she goes, okay, so Colleen, tell me about yours. And I started talking. She goes, oh, did you get my letter? I'm buying the book. I'm like, whoa. And I'm just sitting there. This never happens. This was like, I don't know, 2002 or 3 or whatever. And I'm just sitting there. There was gasps around the table. So never happens. And then she starts talking. She goes, oh, and it's going to be the lead book in the new historical romance line that Berkeley was putting out that year. And I was like, hold me down.
Well, yeah.
And then I was like, but the hero's not. Oh, that's okay. I said, well, it's not set in Scotland. She's like, that's okay. More 3 months down the road, I still haven't heard from her, and I'm trying to get in touch with her. 6 months down the road, I get in touch with her, and I could tell by the tone of her voice I was the last person she wanted to talk to, and that's when I'm like, she's not going to buy the book. So I basically, over the phone, got to help her let me down and tell me that she wasn't going to publish my book after all. And it was like the story of my life. So, but anyway. These were like reasons why it's really important for me that Garrick and Gillian get another chance at maybe a wider audience this time. And it's just, well, it's life, right?
So tell us about him. What's he like? hero.
He has so much guilt because he was the one who was supposed to go off to Hastings to fight. But his father was like, oh no, you have to best me first in hand-to-hand combat because no, I'm going to go and you're going to stay back here and protect, mom and your brothers and everybody in the keep. So, well, his father was older and wiser and spent time in Scotland and was really good at hand-to-hand combat. So his father won. He went off to Hastings and he did not come back. And when the battle makes its way, up to where they are, where Merewood Keep is, Garrick is badly injured. A lot of people don't make it. And so he has this guilt that he should have been the one to go to Hastings, first of all, because if his father had been at the keep, then his father would have managed to, do things differently because of his experience. He's got that on his head. They need food. The keep's people are starving, and he really needs a wealthy heiress. And he thinks that he was promised that Lady Gillian's former home, Logmo Keep, was going to be part of the deal. But it turns out that King William had other ideas. So he's giving it to a Norman knight instead. And they find that out after they're married. Right after the ceremony. So betrayal happens early. So, yeah.
But good things happen by the end, right?
Oh, good things happen. Great things happen when they're... Oh, okay, never mind. That was in London. But no, good things happen.
Good.
And, happily ever after. I mean, life's too short not to read happily ever after.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we have a couple minutes left, and you said something about writing in your grief, and I think that it in my head connected to something that Sarah said. When Sarah was talking earlier about healing, and I'm wondering for all of you if there's something, because I think writing is such a vulnerable process. If you find that it's easier or more difficult, or you can tap into different places depending upon where you are personally in your lives, if you feel if you feel that lets you draw on your writing, or you have to guard your heart a little bit more and it makes it harder to do things, or there's not really a question. I just
I think writing is catharsis. I mean, if you've got something you got to work out, I mean, putting it on the page is a great way to do it.
Yeah.
So
I find that with writing, I want to be writing. I need to be writing. And it very rarely do I not need to be writing. It's because you can live someone else's life. And the way you can read a book, but I mean, when you're living somebody else's life, you're writing, you can make them do what you want. I mean, they do run away with themselves.
Oh, no, you can.
I'm compelled to write. I feel like I can't not write, ever.
no.
I'm going to touch wood here. Never had writer's block.
Yeah, I kind of feel like writing, especially in times when you're kind of losing yourself to, emotions or strife, or, I mean, it kind of grounds you or makes you remember kind of who you are and what you do. I mean, I started writing romance. I was like, I don't know, 2 years postpartum. So it's not the same as grief, of course. It's, it's not comparable, but still, when you have a baby or first time mom, you kind of lose yourself. There's like this whole period where you don't know really who you are. You're trying to reconstruct yourself, find yourself again, because you can't be the same person you were before. And writing definitely helped me do that. Just finding something that I was good at that was completely unrelated to my family, to my day job, whatever. And it really helps ground me when things are hard and I'm tired.
Small children, though, mustn't it? Because you probably don't have nearly so much time as people like me, whose children are all grown up, and I'm retired, so I've got loads of time.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes in the evening I'm tired. I'm like, oh, I don't want to write, but I have a deadline, so I have to do it. But in the end, I'm happy I do it because it kind of gets me out of my head. Helps me kind of, go somewhere else than the daily, work of being a mom and working and all of that, which is, sometimes gets me down.
And I think that works in two ways, because not only does it give you your own professional identity, but also when you are writing and you're in the zone, you all know how it is. When you go in the zone, you are so not you anymore. You are not in your office. You are not, there is the washer and the dryer and all that. None of that exists.
Nope.
And
No,
sometimes
totally.
you wake up and you're like, wow, did I write that? I have no memory of this.
Yep. Yep.
It's a really good
Yeah.
place to be.
Yeah, definitely agree.
Definitely.
What about you, Sarah?
I'm thinking about the best answer. It's their waves. You know, when you're really happy, you can write those, or at least I can write those amazing love scenes where I'm just like, I'm so happy I'm getting them together, and this is the whole butterflies, weak knees kind of moments. And then other times, something happened recently with us that was a big life lesson for my husband and me, where we're saying like, this is what it feels like to grow up in the bad way, where the bad guys just get away with it unscathed and it does not matter. And I'm like, not in my book. So I went to my computer, I opened it up and was like, oh no, the battery's dead. I sat on the floor, plugged in my laptop, and then he's like, what are you doing? And he's like, I am not going to let this happen again. And he's like, there's nothing you can do. It's like, there's plenty I can do. And now the villain has like 3 other books outlined, and he has his own stuff coming.
He's setting the world to rights.
Yep.
Yeah. And, you know, I do think that one day when my sons are older, much older, they'll read my books, and there is more to, I mean, the romance is the driving force, because I think the love and the heart and the natural drive to find the person who's perfect for you in life that's really key in many aspects of life. But there's a lot more to it, and I have a reading order in my notebook that I want my boys to read these books in. And so as the villains come and go, I switch the order around. But there is a lot of our lives that goes into these books, and it comes and goes, which is good that you spend a couple of weeks or months at least writing a book, because it makes it so much more rounded.
Yeah.
What about you, Colleen?
Yeah.
I need a question for you, because I know you.
I actually had an epiphany today. It was really like, wow, this really. Oh, I can't say that word here. Sorry, Evelyn. Insert your favorite. Oh, you know what word? That a lot of the heroes that I've been writing are they're all my husband. So
Yeah. When you had a big love, you have a lot to draw on.
yeah, but people are gonna be like, I don't want. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
It's okay. No, but when you've had a big love, then you have a lot of love to draw on, and it makes perfect sense that, because I think I think authors write through bad relationships too, because you write in a way that it makes you feel the way you want to feel. And if you had a good relationship, if you had a big love, then you have that, like that to draw on, that those feelings. It makes perfect sense that they would be him.
Well, I got to start writing them a little different, because people are gonna be like, oh, it's just another one of those heroes, you know.
I mean, we love those heroes. The ones who take good care of the hero, and we love those heroes. Those are some of the good ones. So, ladies, we've run over. We can go over and over and over again, because this is it's lovely to talk to you. I really appreciate you all taking the time to talk to us. I appreciate you being so honest about your feelings and so honest about your books. It lets us see a little bit behind the process and makes us love your characters even more. So I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Great to talk to you all.
I'll make sure I put the links in the comments. So if you haven't gotten them already, you can grab them. Dragonblade books are their best deal on pre-order and release. I sound like a used car salesman, but it's true. So if you don't grab them, then you can get them in Kindle Unlimited. Afterwards, Deb's book releases wide, so you want to wait a day or two if you want to read in Kindle Unlimited. But if you don't want to wait, which you shouldn't, because everybody needs to know what happens with Kieran Levitt, you can grab it right away. Okay.